Hey everybody, it's the 18th of December, 2024. This is the last Gimbalabs Live Coding session of the year. It's Wednesday. We call this Plutus PBL Live Coding, but really it's kind of our workbench session for just live Cardano development. Personally, I'd love to see it stay that in 2025. Having Wednesdays to get together and build stuff together feels really exciting. Hinson, a lot of you know him. We've been collaborating to deliver Aiken PBL live coding on Tuesdays. That's going to continue to be a pretty structured rollout to that course with lectures about the lessons as they go live. And that gives us space to use this other session as more of kind of a general building session, whatever might come up. And I think this is timely because we've known for a long time that Plutus PBL is about a lot more than just writing Plutus code. The purpose of the course is to give people a high-level overview of what Cardano development entails. We want people to have a strong mental model of what a Web3 app built on Cardano is, so that anybody can dive into the parts that are most interesting to them. And I mentioned Hinson because he has in mind just a general purpose Cardano dev course as well. And I think that's something that we're gonna see come to life next year. Now, one part of the application stack, of course, is your front end. So a few of us were talking leading up to today about just spinning up a new T3 application and making sure that we can use mesh with it the way we want to. Now, T3, for anybody not familiar, you can see it on my screen right here. It's built around Next.js, which is one of the more popular frameworks just for getting started with JavaScript, TypeScript, React development. Okay, so I can build an application from scratch using React. And if I do, I either have to import or build my own boilerplate just to get the project up and running. It's all doable, especially in the age of LLMs that can walk you through this process very quickly. However, even though I can start from scratch, a tool like Next.js just gives us a lot of that boilerplate out of the box. So it's a little faster to get started. I think it can be limited in flexibility later on, right? So if you're an expert developer, you might choose to go that React route and build your whole infrastructure from scratch. That's fine. But for moving quickly and not spending too much time repeating ourselves, Next is a really good place to start. Now we can take it one level beyond that, not only relying on Next, but combining it with a couple of other tools, TypeScript, TRPC, Prisma, Tailwind, and NextAuth. So just very quickly, what do each of these do? Well, Next.js, you can write in, as the .js suggests, you can write in JavaScript, and that's fine. But I think a lot of developers will agree that TypeScript is just better. For example, right before we went live today, I was showing how I could build my project and very quickly see the type errors that were preventing my project from building. TypeScript is what enables this, right? By checking for types at build time, we have the ability to catch those errors. I could have written all the same code in JavaScript, but some of those errors might not have been caught until the application was on the screen of a user. And those type mismatches would have emerged, and it can be really hard to figure out where they're coming from. So TypeScript gives us all of JavaScript with a better typing system, and that's really good. So you can see the builders of T3. We firmly believe TypeScript will help you be a better developer. I agree with that, and I can speak for it firsthand. I don't know what I would do without types if I was just still writing native JavaScript. TRPC allows us to build an API layer into our front end application. There's a lot more to say about this, but we're not going to focus on it today, so I'm not going to worry about this much. But we'll be playing with this in 2025 as we build out the Asteria project. So more to come on that. Prisma is a very quick way to define a database. No matter what, you're going to need to store some information in a database when you're building an application. There, there's a lot we can build onto the blockchain. There's information we can store there. Um, but often there's some other info that we do want to keep. And keeping in mind some long-term goals, right? Would it be great to have robust, decentralized storage for all data that we store in a Web3 app? It absolutely would. But in the meantime, we want to be able to prove out concepts. We want to be able to build the applications that can be further decentralized later down the road. So it's a bit of a compromise to use Prisma and a private database for now, but it allows us to build up our ideas and make sure we're not just waiting for that ideal day that, our Web3 apps are truly decentralized in every part of their work. Tailwind gives us a way to style stuff. You can use vanilla CSS, but Tailwind just makes it really easy to apply styles to the components you're building. And then NextAuth gives us the ability for people to sign into our application without working too hard on all of that repeatable boilerplate. You can imagine that signing into an app, there's pretty well established patterns for supporting people to do that. NextAuth gives us those patterns so that we don't have to work too hard on stuff that's already been done. So this is the T3 app. We're going to play with it today. Any questions about those components before we move on?
One question I'm going to say. I'm not as familiar with the TRPC, but with the app route and the upgrades to Next.js, I think we're on Next.js 15 now. uh, Is it as relevant to use an API layer with the tools that they've introduced themselves on Next with
Okay,
the server actions and root layers, root components? Maybe
great,
that's
great question. Okay, so Next.js also has the ability to build an API in, and we're going to look at those docs in just a second. And I'm not actually fully up to speed on the latest features of Next 15, so I'd like to learn a little bit about that today. But my understanding is that at the next level, you can build your API, but those calls are happening right on the client side in the browser. Ultimately, TRPC gives us the ability to kind of have like a middle layer. I really think of TRPC more as middleware. We have,
okay.
for Andamio, for example, we have our own custom APIs that are completely separate from the application. TRPC is where we consume those APIs, and if necessary, we slice and dice them a little bit, right? We take the data we're getting, we filter it, or just take a subset of what's returned. TRPC makes it really easy to do that and then to expose to our application the exact data we need. But we might find out that it is less relevant if we're using Next 15. So let's keep our eyes open to that.
Hmm, hmm.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. I would love to see like the beginning steps of that. Like I have that in a conceptual way, but I don't, you know what I mean? Like I haven't worked with it in the building blocks kind of way. So
Excellent.
I'm looking forward to that.
So I'm going to jump over to the Next.js website for just a second, get started. And you can see up here in the corner of the Next documentation that you can go through the docs using App Router or using Pages Router. And the problem we're here to work on today is for a while, it was the case that some Cardano libraries were easier to use in the Pages library than the app library. We have pretty good evidence that this is no longer the case and that we should be able to get Mesh installed using App Router and see everything working. So that's goal number one for today, just to create a new T3 app, bring Mesh into it, and make sure that we can connect a wallet and see the wallet balance on the screen. If we can do that in App Router, then we can move forward building out a small application. Now, there's two applications I have immediately in mind. One of them, once again, is Asteria. The other is a PPBL 2025 front-end template. So I'm going to jump over to the Gimbalabs GitHub for just a moment. If you're not a member here and you want to be, just ping me on Discord with your GitHub username or the email address you log in with, and we can add you to the crew here who's able to maintain stuff. What I'd like to do is say, okay, well, we have this PPBL 2024 front end. It is written in TypeScript. This actually is a T3 app. There you go. But if I navigate into the source folder, I'm going to see a pages directory. And in a Next.js project, this is how you know I'm using page router. If I was using app router, I wouldn't see the pages directory. I would see an app directory up here. So what I'd like to propose is, what if we initialize a PPBL 2025 front-end repo today with this little demo that we're doing? And if everything works, we'll just push that up here and we can build from there to have our PPBL 2025 front end, which will, when we're ready, be exposed at plutuspbl.io. This is the 2024 one with the source code that's right here. But we can replace this as soon as we're ready with 2025. What's nice is that any components that we've built for this site right here, we're not going to have to change them much to convert over to App Router. It has more to do with the way things work under the hood. App Router actually gives us some really nice benefits that we're going to discover as we go. However, if I've already built, say, a component, let's go into the front end, look at our source directory, look at our components. Look, I mean, just something, how about a calendar, right? This calendar component won't need to be changed at all to allow us to move over to App Router. I can just pull the same exact code right in, just drop it in, it'll work again. Okay. Other components that are more complicated, there are a couple of gotchas that we're going to notice as we go. We have to distinguish between server-side rendering and client-side rendering. So we're going to learn to do that as we move along. But most of, a lot of the returns, right? The stuff that's actually showing up on the screen, all of that is still going to be relevant. And so it'll just be a matter of dragging and dropping or moving files from 2024 to 2025. So any questions?
Dude, that sounds awesome. Like we're here for the 2025. I mean,
Here we go.
that seems kind of, not monumental. I mean, I might be overdoing it a bit, but that seems pretty important.
New repo.
So you're just in, yeah.
Let's make a new public repo. We'll call it the PPBL 2025 front end. There we go. Okay, we're going to leave it empty. I'm going to leave it completely empty for now, and we're going to come back to this as soon as we create this thing locally. We'll follow these commands in just a few minutes. I'm going to jump back over to the T3 app documentation. I'm going to keep Next open right here, but let's take a look at T3 app. Right, all I really need to do is run this command, but let's look at the docs and what it says for getting started. You've got all this documentation. This video is 3 hours long. This guy keeps updating it. I don't know when it was last updated, but it's a pretty good way to get started. I forget what project he's guiding you through. Anybody done this recently?
It's a little towards the intermediate to advanced. It's definitely, a medium dive. I can't remember exactly what he's working on. There are others. He has another shorter one that's more like, here's exactly what you need to do to get started. But this definitely goes inside baseball quite a bit.
Cool. Okay.
It's, 3.5
he has a lot of
hours long.
assumptions here.
Yeah.
But he exposes.
It's pretty comprehensive. Yeah.
You could take a month to go through this 3 hour video, little piece by little piece.
Exactly. Exactly.
Now, also in the intro, notice what I see at the top of the page. There's the app router version and the pages router version, and he's made a different video for each one. Okay. If I go to installation, I expect maybe to see same app router. Oh, okay, I need this dash dash app router tag in order to start like that. I don't remember if it prompts me for that. So I'm just going to make sure to include that when I run npm create T3 app at latest. So let's do that.
And then flag it, and then flag it with that
Yeah,
app router. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there you go. All right. So over here, I'm going to head into my terminal.
I'm happy that I can use the term flag correctly. That's where I'm at.
Um, another system I happen to use just personally is Tiago Forte's Para system. So Para
Yeah.
stands for projects, archived, projects, areas, resources, and archived. So I happen to have on my computer those folders set up. I have an inbox for just stuff that I'm not sure where to put it, temporary stuff, projects that I'm currently working on, areas that represent bigger stuff that's not current, but I need to know like what I'm working on there. Resources like archived documentation, but that I want access to. And then archives is stuff I just want to forget about, put it out of mind, but not delete it. And I know that I'll always find stuff there if I do end up going back to it. So that's Para. You can look that up. And I know it's that time of year where we all think about our productivity. So I found his book really helpful. So I'm going to create a new directory in my projects folder. I number them just so it's really easy to find each one of these. And in my current projects, I've got Andamio stuff, the Gimbalabs website, and then courses we're working on. So let's jump into courses. You can see there's Aiken PBL and PPBL 2024 are the only two that are like currently working on those. Marlowe PBL is an example of something in my areas. I'm working on it, but not directly at this moment. So this gives me a really nice way to just see, okay, what's the most important current stuff? And what we're going to add to that list of most important current stuff is PPBL 2025. Nice. Uh,
Beautiful.
Soon enough, PPBL 2024 will be archived. I'm going to leave it here for now because I know there's a lot of stuff that's current and I want to be able to use that. So it's into this 2025 directory that I'm going to run the T3 command and create my application. So now I'm going to copy that line from the documentation. And then we talked about this flag. What was it? Dash dash app router. Just make sure to include that. And I'm going to run this and see what happens.
Oh boy, here we go.
Okay, we
Okay.
need to install some packages. Oh, wait, there's one more thing I ought to do.
Mm.
I'm just going to make sure to run nvm use node. No, NVM stands for Node Version Manager, and I have a few different versions. I want to use like the latest one right now. So I'm going to type nvm use node, which just ensures that I'm using the latest version of Node.js. That makes some things easier downstream. All right, this is still an empty folder because I didn't actually complete that command. Let's run it again. Okay. Need to install create T3 app 7.38.1. Sure. Okay,
Here we
what's
go.
our project called? PPBL 2025 front end. Nice. We're going to use TypeScript. Yes, please. Tailwind. Yes, we want it. TRPC. Yes, thanks. Authentication, I'm going to skip in this project. We're just
Okay.
making a little front end that people can look at as they're studying in the PPBL course, but we don't have any needs to have people sign into that. Asteria, you might think otherwise. You might want to give people an account, even just to play around with that.
Hmm.
ORM, I am going to make a Prisma. I'm going to use Prisma as my ORM so that just in case we want to demo a couple things with the database, we're able to do that. I do think it's helpful just to have a couple of examples of what a DB can do. So I'm going to make that possible. And would I like to use Next.js app router? I thought I told you already. I used this tag, but you're asking me? Okay, I do. And when it comes time to use a database provider, SQLite is probably plenty, but I'm going to use Postgres SQL because it's what I'm familiar with, and I don't feel like learning that new thing right now just to get this part working. I'm going to keep that. Should we initialize a Git repository? No, I already did that. And should we run npm install for you? Sure. What import alias do you want to use? Your choices here are this little tilde that's under my cursor or the @ symbol. I don't, there's no advantage to using either one. It's a matter of taste. I'm used to using tilde, and that's what it's suggesting to me. And this is the symbol. Yep.
Yeah, that's the one that I kind of what's an import alias, huh?
Okay, so what this symbol represents is when I am importing anything from one component in my project into another one, right? I know that they're both in the same project. And this tilde marker here will represent the root directory of the project
Okay.
I'm working in.
All right, I got it.
And we'll see that in context in just a minute too.
And that's like a Linux pref, you can because I think that
Exactly.
tilde is yeah.
Same thing, right? On my computer, the tilde represents the home directory in my operating system.
But
Right?
some people have something else, right? There's just different
Exactly.
flavors of
You can
yeah.
configure that.
Okay, cool.
Initializing some dependencies, some deprecated stuff. We'll need to fix this later. I'm not worried about it for now.
Yeah.
Just warnings. Okay. It says that we can build a database. Okay, that might be fun. And then we can also git init this thing. Let's do that before we forget. So git init, great. Git commit.m initial commit, sure. Oops, I didn't add. Let's add the files. Let's commit.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, there's everything we're pulling in. I might want to ignore some of these things, but I think no, that feels safe for now. And let's jump back for just a moment
Go
to
back and get those commands from the GitHub.
get the URL from GitHub. So what I want to do, I just did
So
my
you did
first.
some of those. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was like, hey, he's flying off script. Okay, cool. All right.
So
So,
now we're
all
gonna
right.
we're gonna on the main branch add this origin. I could just do these two commands because I already did the ones above. Same thing. Let's just pull those in over here. Cool. And then finally git push u origin main to push up for the first time. Now, when I refresh the page over here on GitHub, we should see there's our initial commit. Okay, we got a project running. Very nice. Here it is.
Okay, hey, pause, timeout. I'm
Yep.
I'm I'm calling the timeout. I feel pretty comfortable with that. Um, but it's still, like I still wouldn't want to do it on stage like you're doing. I mean, I get this isn't like a huge stage, but Erez and Andrew and really Harsha, I think Harsha kind of feels comfortable. But could we check in and just see like I feel like that is an important skill knowledge thing for every contributor to have. To be honest, it has to be super like it's just like standing on the field or kicking the soccer ball, learning to play soccer. Like it has to be perfect every time, and you have to be super comfortable with it. Like zero brain resources should be carried out when you do this because if you have to like gear down to like do this step, you're not going to have a lot to do other harder work later on, So the folks on the call, like, how do you feel about that? Like just like setting up a project, getting the Gits together,
Yeah,
thumbs up on the.
I'm
or
lucky
come
because
off my.
James has a very similar tech stack to the fact he even selected PostgreSQL made me smile. So yeah, but he's a lot quicker on the command line than I am. So I'm comfortable with the steps he took, but some of the steps around Git, I would possibly just do that on the code editor, Visual Studio because it's quicker. But yeah, it's I'm okay up to now.
Okay.
Plus, I
Okay.
work with
I
Next.js anyway, so it's cool.
All right. All right.
I think it's good you brought that up, Newman. I'm familiar with those steps, but I have a difficult time actually implementing them. So that's something that like I wrote in the chat, it's something that I'm working on and looking at other tutorials and trying to figure it out. But I find it a bit confusing.
Yeah. 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 Okay. Okay.
So
And
I
Harsha gave us
actually
a thumbs up.
I made a timely mistake here that
Ooh.
to fix it, I'm going to have to repeat some of those steps. Look what I did. This is supposed to be the PPBL 2025 front end repo, but when I come into it, I see this directory right here. And the
Uh-huh.
reason that happened is I just initialized the Git repo from the parent directory, PPBL 2025. I didn't mean to do that. I forgot to CD into that new directory that we just made. So let's fix that. Now, when I run ls, I only see this directory right here, PPBL 2025 front end. When I run ls-la, I also see the hidden folders. And in this case, there's a hidden Git folder. That's what was created when I initialized Git. I'm just going to remove that entire directory. That was a mistake. Remove
Okay.
rf. Okay, so R means recursive and F means force. We specify force because if there's any warnings, I don't care. I just want to delete this whole thing. We specify recursive because I'm trying to delete an entire directory and I want to recursively delete any subdirectories of that folder. So rm-rf.git is going to remove the Git stuff from this high level folder, which is just my local folder for keeping all the repos we might make for PPBL 2025. Now, if I run git status, ooh, there's not a Git repository here. Great, I don't want there to be one. I actually want it to be in here, PPBL 2025 front end. If I run ls-la here, I see that there is no Git established yet. There is a Git ignore file, which is nice.
Yep.
But this now is where I want to say Git init. Okay, yes, that's better. And then I want to say Git add all of these files again. Git commit. I'm going to call this first commit instead of initial commit so we can see the difference. First commit. Okay, that looks good. And then I'm just going to scroll back up through my previous commands to find this one. Now I'm going to add this origin, same one. Okay. And I'll scroll back up through those commands again so I don't have to figure out what I did before. Yes, that one looks good. And finally, this guy. Boom. Okay. Now, it didn't let me. The remote work contains work that you do not have locally. Yes.
Oh, so you're gonna have to do a force push or something because
Yeah,
it's saying, hey, you're gonna overwrite stuff, I think.
yeah. I'm going to overwrite this. Can I just delete this directory from here? How about
So
that?
this is exactly what I experience. Like if I can do the Git dance as long as nothing goes wrong. As soon as
Yeah.
something goes wrong,
Yes.
then it's just and then it's a confidence game, like a confidence game maybe, but then it sort of like plays with because I'm like, oh, I get scared.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so
The tip
in
I would
my
give
what
you, yeah, make sure
yeah,
to always look at that .git directory. That hidden .git directory often has some clues in it, or you can just
okay,
nuke it and start over. But as you see, I did
that's
that, but I still had this kind of upstream part, right? My stored in the GitHub cloud was that other work. So I just deleted it here. Now there's that commit. Now I'm still going to get that same error, I think. Let's try it again.
Newman, I can totally relate to what you're saying. And
Yeah.
James, I'm wondering if you were to pull the repo, would that be a way to kind of deal with preventing this issue, or?
That's exactly
Well,
right.
but then,
And I still have
oh,
the same error because, yeah, there are two commits that I don't have down here. The one where I uploaded everything before, and then the one where I deleted everything. The reason I went to the GitHub interface to delete it first is I didn't want to pull all that stuff back down and just have that getting in the way. Okay, so now that's gone. I am going to git pull to bring those changes down. Fine. Okay, there's no tracking information for the current branch. So it says if you wish to do that, let's just do this. Okay, whoops. Dash
oh
branch.
man.
Oh, right. No, I'm not worried about that. If I run git pull again, no tracking.
Okay. Yeah, do another. Yeah.
Nothing to promote.
Oh,
Um,
huh.
yeah, okay.
Oh,
That's what I need. There it is. Let's try that again. All right, so here, this is a case where I shouldn't be spinning my wheels, right? I made a mistake. I'm trying to fix it. I could have just moved on without that mistake and would have been ultimately unsatisfying. I would have introduced technical debt right away in a project. Now, I don't feel like figuring out exactly what to do here. It just doesn't feel like a good use of time. So it would take just as little time because we're just getting started to start over. So that's what I'm going to do.
yes.
All right.
Yes.
I have an
Nuke
empty
it from orbit.
directory
Nuke
again.
it from orbit.
Nothing is in that directory. Let's go over here. Let's just delete this repo. I made a dumb mistake. It wasted our time. I'm not going to waste more.
I-
So let's delete.
Absolutely not wasting time because um I disagree. I disagree.
Thank you.
Because that's I mean and so basically what that tells me, hey, it's okay to nuke it from orbit. It's just a science fiction term that I think maybe they said it in Aliens. Bill Paxton says it to the gang. He's like, let's get out of here and just instead of but yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I feel like that's a good
And
Yeah,
I
I've done my
ultimately
fair share
do
of
agree with you.
nuke it from orbits too.
Yeah, exactly. This is a reasonable move. All right.
But actually,
Oh,
but the little side journey to try to unscrew it up is a good is a good it was helpful because that's sort of what I would do, and it is sort of like okay, because there's little teeny things, and I want to get to a point where I'm more and more familiar. Because what I said I think is really important. Like those type of things shouldn't burn any of your creative, you know, uh,
exactly. Yeah. Why
juice.
why spin wheels and get frustrated
Yeah,
by something that we only just
yeah.
started? All right, I'm gonna
Because you're gonna need those frustration buff points like later on.
more
It's like
meaningfully. That's exactly
yeah,
right.
yeah.
All right. I'm gonna not supply that tag this time and see what happens while we're here. Okay, this is called the PPBL 2025 front end. TypeScript, yes. Tailwind, yes. gRPC, yes. Next off, no. Prisma, yes. App router, yes. Postgres, fine. Git repo, no. And sure, run npm install. There's our alias. We do it again. This time I'm going to cd into the directory like it told me to before I do the git commands.
Hey James, is there a reason we are creating two folders. One, initially we create a PPBL25 folder, go in, create a T3 app, and the T3 app creates another PPBL25 folder. Is that necessary, or is one folder enough?
Okay, so I made a PPBL 2025 folder on my computer just because I wanted a place for any repos I make. Front end's not going to be the only one.
Okay, got it.
Inside of that, now we have one subdirectory for now, just the front end. Eventually there'll be others.
Okay, got it.
Remember what I did earlier is I skipped this line. It told me what to do first. I ignored it. Let's do it this time. There we go. Now let's git init. That looks good. Now let's git commit. We'll call this our third commit, and that'll be like a little Easter egg in the history of this project. People are going to see that the first commit is called third commit. We will know why. Once again, I forgot to add these files, so I'll do that. There we go. Now, finally, I can pull these commands over from GitHub. I'm just going to paste all three of those in at once. It worked. And when I go back here, look at the difference. Remember how by going to this repo, originally I saw a folder that I had to click into. I didn't want that. When I go to this URL right here, I want to see the project. And now we do. I feel much happier about that.
Not a long way to get back to where we wanted to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Worth it.
Definitely.
All right.
And it is cool. It is cool that it's third commit. That is an Easter egg.
All right, let's just do an npm run dev right here and see what happens. I just want to get this thing up and running. It says it's running on local 3000. Yep.
It did the npm install for you. That was part of the install script.
Yes, exactly. That was already done. All right. Localhost 3000. What do we see? Okay.
So whiteout, it's a snowstorm.
Some errors are happening. Look at what my terminal looks like. Ruh-roh. Okay, why is that happening? There's a good reason for this. I skipped another command. I did. You know, I just didn't do all of the commands it told me to after I ran the init. So let's go back to the T3 docs. I was skipping the database step just to see how lazy I could be. But let's jump back over here for just a second. We create, that's okay.
See, this is something that I haven't done. I typically skip the database, you know, when it asks if you want to set one up, I'm like,
Right, and I didn't have to use Postgres, but since I did, I just have to run this script, start database, and it did suggest that I do that. Start database. Where is that? ls-la. Now, one thing that -la does is it shows me hidden folders like these ones. The other thing it does is it shows me the read, write, and execute capabilities of, say, a shell script like this. And you see how this one has RWX? That X means that as the local user right here, I'm allowed to execute this script. And Andrew, this came up briefly for us yesterday. This is what you would want to look at first if a script is not working on Demeter Run. This might not be the issue, but that's the first thing I would look at. If you're not seeing those X's, you won't be able to run a script.
Right, I'll look at that.
If you don't see those X's, the way you can change the read, write, and execute capabilities of a script is with the chmod command. And here's a fun little piece of math, okay? Notice that there are three sets right here of I guess it's XRW, execute, write, execute, read, and write. All right, XRW, RW, yeah, the dash is, forget about the dash, that's the D. RWX, read, write, execute, RWX, read, write, execute, RWX.
Okay.
Okay. Now you can see that only the root user can write to this file, W. the other two kinds of user roles, right, including these two that represent me if I'm not using sudo access, I can read this file or execute, but I can't write it. Chmod allows us to change it, and just a clever little piece of arithmetic, because there's three values here, they kind of use a binary arithmetic to denote these. If I want R, W, and X, we apply 4 points for R, 2 points for W, and 1 point for X. So in other words, if I want all three of those things to be true, I want level 7, right? If I only want execute but not read and write, that would be just 1 for X, 1. All right. So often you're going to see something like this, chmod 755. That means put a 7 in the root place, RW and X, 4 plus 2 plus 1. Put an RX in the second position, 4 plus 1 is 5. And same thing here. Watch. I don't have to do 755. Just for fun, let's do 766. We'll get rid of the X, but we'll add the W for both of those. Chmod 766, when I ls-la again, look at how the permissions for this file have changed.
Okay, so you added the W and took away the X by 766. So 6 is read and write,
If
but
I do
not execute.
777, I'll see all of them. RWX, RWX, RWX. There they are.
Full permission.
Right.
Do whatever you want.
Now, for now, 755 is the write permission for this file. I actually don't want to accidentally write any changes to this file. So I'm going to make it 755. That's good. And then I'm going to run this script. Start the database, Docker. Oh, it's looking for, I shouldn't have said Postgres because we're not going to set up a database. I should have done SQLite. All right. So now how do I change it? You know what? Let's do something completely 2024 and go to the LLM.
What?
I'm going to ask Claude how to do this.
Oh man, here we go.
There we go. In a P3 app, I enabled Postgres QL, and I don't want that. I want SQLite. How can I change back to SQLite?
Man, I love this. Okay, here we go.
Who is Claude?
Claude is the LLM.
I haven't had the pleasure of meeting him yet.
Claude is the LLM. This is the large language model from an organization called Anthropic. A lot of them are OpenAI. And in my benchmarking, I've found that it gives me much better answers to code-related questions. This is not an endorsement. I just, for my personal purposes, I found the answers are more reliable here. All right, let's fix that. So what steps are we going to do? We're going to fix the Prisma file. We're going to do an npm command, and then we're going to reset the database. Cool. And what's really nice about SQLite, look at this URL to this database. It's just going to store a file in the Git repo itself. We don't need to hook up to an external database. That's why it was asking me to have Docker running so it could do all of that. I don't want to spend time on that right now. So yeah, let's just save our database as an SQLite document. And later on, if we need to hook up to a database, we'll do that. Let's go into the code editor. It told me first that I want to go into my Prisma schema, which is pretty limited right now. But as you see right here, it has PostgreSQL set up. We're going to change that to SQLite as it suggests. And we're going to make the URL a local file by just copying what we see there. File, root directory, right? Project directory. DB SQLite is a good name for that file. Looks like I don't have to change anything else here. Cool. Now it says to run a command in the terminal, npm uninstall at Prisma adapter. We don't need the PostgreSQL adapter anymore. We run that. Cool. And then it just says to do this npx db push, just force a reset if there was anything stored. Good. And now let's try once again. First of all, I actually don't know if this will just work now without running that database script, right? It said in the documentation that we only needed to run that script if we were using PostgreSQL or the other one. So it looks like there's no errors here.
Okay, so timeout. So
Yep.
So basically it's going to run through, it's going to see in that Prisma, then it's going to say, it's going to, instead of seeing Postgres, and it's going to want like this big Docker database off in another spot. It sees SQLite, which is just a file, and it's maybe not going to check and run any errors. So we don't need to do any of the other things to avoid the error.
Right.
We
don't need to give it like the external hookup to the database that we would want.
Right.
And,
right. Because we're not actually, okay.
SQLite is really helpful, right? It's just a database in a document. And the truth is, if you're only using a little bit of data, it's fine to keep a single file with all of that, right? Now, of course, in production, you're going to need a formal database, hopefully with multiple instances that's backed up on different servers, just in case one of them fails. For now, that's not our concern. And SQLite can be used in production. We can show how to use this just by pushing it up to Vercel. And yeah, that database file right there in the repo, basically part of our front-end project, will be sufficient to store data if we're not talking about high throughput and a lot of data. Let's see what happens if I refresh localhost 3000 in my browser. Looks good. Okay, we are up and running. I don't have any posts yet. Geesh, where's posts? You have no posts? Where's that coming from? Well, let's open up a new tab here. NVM use node vi into this in our source server API and routers. There's this host.ts. And so out of the box, the T3 app comes with an example of how you can write posts. What is a post? Looks like it's just some data stored. Okay, so what can we do? We can create, we can get the latest post, and then there's this hello one that just has a little message right here. And you can see this message right here. Hello from TRPC. That's coming from this line. How about we change it to Happy New Year? We'll see that on the front end. Nice. All right, but where's this from TRPC part coming from? I see where I could change these words, but what about these ones? Those are a variable input text. So it looks like somewhere in the application we're calling hello and we're providing it with a special string. Let's go change that too. I'm going to open up the underscore app. Whoop, nope, because I'm using app router. I'm used to using pages router where I can expect to see underscore app. Let's explore the file system here. Okay, app router, instead of having a route that says source pages underscore app, we flip those things. This one has source app page. That's going to be kind of the starting point for my Next.js project if I'm using app router. And here, oh, here, hello.greeting. Okay, but where is, oh, up here, look, const hello, await our API,
Yeah.
the post endpoint. We were just looking at post.ts and the hello method. So where's post coming from? That's coming from right here, post router, and dot hello because we have dot hello. Let's call it dot happy holidays instead. What's going to happen? Well, first of all, in the browser, this breaks. Good. Because I no longer have a hello endpoint right here. So now let me go back to that pages file, and I also see an error right here. Oh, hello does not exist on that router.
Beautiful.
No. Happy holidays does, though, and even autocomplete can see it. And then finally, let's change the text of that message while we're here to from Gimbalabs. Now that I've done that, there we go. Happy New Year from Gimbalabs. That looks nice. Okay. So we just played with the router a tiny bit. We played with the front end code a tiny bit.
Holy crap.
All right. So what I really want to do here is I want a connect wallet button from Mesh to show up on this page without breaking anything. So that's what we're going to do.
All right. Time out. Because I will tell you this is that sometimes my buddy and I used to watch NASCAR, and I'm like, NASCAR is boring as crap. Look at all this stuff that goes on. It's just boring, blah blah blah. He's like, it all comes down to the last turn. It's just the last turn, and that's
We
what
just
it
did
is.
all-
It's like, okay.
This is the setup for now the 10-minute lesson about the mesh part. Okay, we just navigated Web 2. So far, so good. Okay, so now resources, guides, develop your first app. Now this guy has, would you like to use app router? No. Right? So this guide right here is showing us how to set up in pages underscore, I just mentioned this file, right? Pages underscore app.tsx. That's what you're going to have if you're using the pages router. We want to confirm whether or not this all works in the app router.
James, I can help cheat a little bit here. They have a
Yes.
Git repo with some of the boilerplate for the app router. I'm not sure if there's actual guide on the front end like you're looking at, but I can drop
No,
it
where
in
is
the
it?
chat.
Okay, great. Great.
Do you want me to drop it in the chat?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Yeah. Hang on.
Oh, here we go. Next app route. I see an example right here.
I've dropped it in there. You might be on it. Yeah, that's it. And he's just bumped the version up to get onto the to update it to the next JS 15.
Look, Jingles updated this guy last week. He's thinking about the same thing we are. Okay. Let's
All right.
see.
So tell us what we're looking at. Is this a full
This
next?
is not a full T3 app, but this looks like a Next.js application. And
Okay.
a hint right here is that we have this app directory, but I can also look in the package JSON. What do I see? Yeah, Next 15.03. Very
Okay.
nice. And it's apparently using this with Mesh. So let's find out if that works.
It's just very basic boilerplate. There's nothing to it. I think it would have like a loading message up if you were to run it.
Yeah, I'm just looking for, oh, nice. Okay, so look at this. Look at this. Our app/page.tsx looks like this. Jingle's already ripped out the T3 boilerplate right here, so he doesn't have to worry about it. And I see this Hydra client being pulled in, Hydrate client from TRPC server. I wonder if it's okay to continue to wrap our app in that. I'm going to leave it until it breaks. But as you can see, we can remove most of this if we want to. And what's important here? Jingles has in between these main tags a wallet with a dynamic hook component. Now, I'm assuming there's one other thing going on here because page.tsx is not the only file in this directory. When we use app router, the design pattern is we separate layout from page. And I don't have time to explain that fully in the time we have left today, but I just want to see what layout looks like. And here I find what I expected to see. Mesh has a provider. What does the provider do? It allows us to wrap our entire application in a context. In this case, right? If a user connects their wallet and then clicks to a different page, a different route in the application, I don't want them to have to reconnect their wallet every time. I would rather know, okay, is their wallet already connected or not? And so what we do is at the very root of the project, we wrap anything, right? Children, anything we might build into this application, we're going to wrap all of it in the mesh provider, which allows us to persist data from the connected wallet across our app, only requiring the user to connect their wallet once. This is the key thing we need. So what I'm actually going to do, let's open up the layout.tsx file over here and see what it looks like. Layout.tsx. This already has a TRPC React provider. Beautiful. I want to keep that because I want the TRPC stuff too. And that's fine. I can totally do that. What I'm going to do is create some space inside of the TRPC React provider to also include the Mesh provider app. Now, before I do this, I got to install Mesh in my project. Okay, so I'm going to keep
Okay, let's do that.
Tab. And over here, where's the install command? Here it is. I want Mesh SDK Core and Mesh SDK React. Let's do both of those. Jump back over here. Quit out for just a minute. Run, not that command. npm install at Mesh SDK Core.
Everybody okay? I think this is I think this is I'm tracking. Everybody else tracking? Thumbs up from Andrew. Ares is looking for the thumbs up. There, he found it. Harsha knows what's up. Okay. Mix is following along. Hey, well done, Mix. Thank you.
Keeping the professor busy. I like.
The professor is all like, oh bad.
So it's installing the.
Okay, it's churning away.
Oh, it's going to be
Oh
erased.
no, this is in my mind, this is a highlight. Okay, hold on. What's it say there?
A lot of packages added. That's all right. I don't know why it had to add that many, but there's some dependencies. We'll look at that closer later. My goal is to get this thing working for the first time. So I want to reopen that layout file. And let's think about this. The TRPC React provider is the outer provider right now. But I might want some mesh stuff in my TRPC calls. I don't know if it makes a difference which one goes on the outside, but for now, I'm going to opt to have the mesh provider outside of the TRPC provider. Okay. And if problems happen later, I can always go back and change that. But I think this should be fine. Mesh provider.
Oh, there it is.
But he's got something called app in this one. Mesh provider app. And I'll show you this in just a second. Mesh provider app. Let's save that. Of course, it has an error because I'm not importing that from anywhere yet because it doesn't exist. Let's look at this example. In the example right here, we see Mesh Provider App is actually not being imported from Mesh. It's being provided from, oh, look, there's the opposite of tilde, an @ sign, same idea. Providers, Mesh Providers. So let's go back to the root of our project and find the providers directory and Mesh Provider. Root, providers, there it is. I'm going to build this little component in. Now here's a line that we're going to see all the time as we play around with app router, and it's kind of at the root of our problems, right? This is why these things are complicated. Next app router makes a better distinction between code that runs in the user's browser, in other words, the client, and code that runs on the server side. When we want things to happen on the client side, we have to specify it. And that's what you see happening here. Why do we want mesh stuff to happen on the client side? Well, because our server doesn't know anything about the user's wallet. The user's wallet is on the client side. So of course, everything we do with mesh should happen there too. So I'm going to make a new file. I'm going to make a new directory called providers and a new file called mesh provider. And then I'm just going to follow this pattern. So let's exit out of the code editor again. Let's let's make a directory because I don't think I have a providers directory yet. Let's go make directory providers. Nice. And then let's create a new file inside of it called mesh provider.tsx. And then let's go back into the code editor, open that file, and just paste what's already built right here. Then, oh, I need to change that too. My tabs are screwed up on this computer. I need to change a setting at the project level. Not going to spend time doing that at this moment. But I am going to switch back over to layout. And now I have a place to import this mesh provider app from, right? Because I just made that provider's mesh provider. Cool. Now our application is wrapped in the provider. And if I go back over here and I look at now the app page, this page was allowing me to just place a wallet component in it because the mesh context is already covered. Now that wallet is being built over here, right here. Let's just really quickly, I'm going to copy these two components. I'm going to show you what's on my screen right here because I'm moving fast because I got to get to another meeting, but I want to finish the loop on this.
Yeah, keep going. No timeouts. This is a special time. Keep going.
Right here. And what I'm going to do is follow the pattern that Jingles is suggesting here. So I'm going to make a directory called underscore components. I'm going to touch into it a dynamic hook. And I'm also going to create a wallet. Great. Then, oh, you know what? Those should probably be TypeScript files. So let's really quickly rename those. MV dynamic hook to dynamic hook.ts. And same thing with wallet to wallet.ts. I'm looking off screen at that directory in the example here. And I see those are both actually TSX files. So let me run this one more time and go from this to this and this to this. Okay. And these should actually be in this components directory should actually be in the app directory. And I put it at the top level. So what I'm going to do here is move the components directory I just made into app underscore, well, just into app, and that should do it. Now, if I cd into app, I'll see that we don't have it. Where is it then? App. All right. Hey, I'm late for another meeting. We have to pick this one up. I wouldn't mind meeting a few minutes early for open spaces tomorrow. We're like 10 minutes or less away from having this working, but we just didn't quite get there yet.
You're a champ. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. I'll push these changes after we get it working, and I'll just open up the open spaces a little early tomorrow if people want to drop by there and just get this thing done.
Perfect. Great to see everybody.
Great to
Bye.
see
Thanks,
you.
Andrew. Thanks,
Thanks a
Erez.
lot.
See you
Bye,
guys.
bye. Thanks, Mix. Bye, Pabon. Bye, bye.